Hello, beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while you deepen in your connection with your angels and guides and the magic in your soul. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, which means I help people talk to the angels and the angels talk back in the best way possible. I am a spiritual teacher and an encourager of souls. And I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes. And you can learn more about my services when you awake in the morning, and you can find me at illuminatingsouls.com or at my Facebook page of the same name. But for now, I am here to help you fall asleep. For several years now, I have integrated sleep podcasts as part of my self-care. I can't quite remember when I started listening. I think I was traveling and having a hard time sleeping. But at some point, it became a nightly experience. And I love my life, and I love the end of the day when I get to crawl in bed. I typically go to sleep before my husband, so I crawl in bed and I put on as many covers as I can without baking myself. And I put in my earbuds and I go to my favorite podcast app and pick an episode. Some of my favorites are Sleep With Me. There's another one called Sleepy. Another one called Get Sleepy. Can you tell there's a theme here? And each one is a little different, so I get to choose whatever I feel an affinity for that evening. And I love the genre so much. I was guided to create my own because I really love the opportunity to be a soft, gentle, loving voice in the world. It's part of my mission. So here we are. And I want to thank you for finding your way here and for spending this time with me. I'm grateful for you. And if you're so inclined, I would so appreciate it if you would consider leaving a review on iTunes or Google Play, or even sending me an email and let me know how you're enjoying the podcast. The interesting thing about podcasts is there isn't much of a feedback loop, although the beautiful thing about being an empath and intuitive is I feel the cycle of love, the flow of love, going from my heart to yours, and then whirling about the world. And it's exciting to say we do have a global audience, so I love all of you who are here in the U.S., and I also want to acknowledge those of you who are listening beyond the U.S. I've seen that we have listeners from the Philippines and China and Greece and Sweden and Germany. And especially when we think about the state of the world, how beautiful is it that in this moment we gather together, even if we're in different time zones, even if you're listening to this years after I've recorded it, that we are all participating in this tapestry of light that exists here and now. And that feels like a miracle to me. You know, something I'm guided to mention is there are significant events taking place right now on the world stage. And I'm purposely not talking about them in detail because it is truly my intention to create a safe, welcoming, warm, and sacred space for you to go to sleep. And sometimes current events and sleep do not mix well. But I want you to know that I'm aware of all that is not all. I'm aware of what is happening. And I'm intentionally crafting this broadcast as a place where you can come and lift your feet up off the world for a little while so that you can rest and replenish and come back to center. You know, some people who do this work, they don't watch the news, but I do. I always have. I grew up in a house that very much valued news and information, so I'm watching. It's in my heart. And one of the things the angels remind me of, and so I share this with you, is when things happen in the world that are so disruptive, there is a tendency to feel impotent because you and I have very little influence over what is transpiring. But you know what we do have influence over? Our intimate circle of light and the little corners of the world in which we live. We can always choose kindness. We can choose generosity. I drew a card before I started tonight's broadcast, and the card says power. And I always feel that it means authentic power, that there are times when the events in our lives or in the world will seek to have us feel as if we have no point of influence. But I promise you this, you are a source of goodness and light in this world. And if each person, if each sentient being is a reflection of the universe, then you are making a difference in this world. I shared this snippet with you in another podcast episode. I don't recall which one, but it's part of one of my favorite quotes that changed my life when I was 18 years old. It says, "To know that one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to succeed." So in this moment, I am doing what I can with the angels' help to literally help you breathe easier right now. Isn't that wonderful? So my precious friend, you just take a nice deep breath in and out, allowing the love of the angels to meet you where you are. And whatever you are moving through, whether it is deeply intimate and personal, or whether you have been tuning in to the collective, that the angels are here to love you in this breath and in the next and the one to follow. You are precious in this world, and this world is brighter because you are here. So I'm going to invite the angels in. They're already here, but I'm going to invite them in so you know they are here. And maybe if you're new to the angels, you're not sure yet how that might be experienced. So for me, sometimes I feel tingles. It's not uncommon sometimes for people to have some tears flow when the love comes in. These days, for me, it's more like a wave of comfort. There's just something about it that I sigh into. You know, that sigh that happens when you're getting a good massage and just some tension that was in your body gets released. I experience an energetic version of that when the angels come in. So you may be aware of this moment or not. It's okay. You may already be asleep, in which case, if you are, I wish you sweet dreams. But I'm going to intentionally invite the angels in now. So beautiful angels on high, we invite you to join us here, and we feel your invitation inviting us into the sanctuary of sleep. Angels, we are so deeply grateful for this opportunity to come together with you, because here in this space, each one of us is met with love. Angels, we ask for a blanket of love to be placed upon our lives, that the fears, the doubts, the grieving, the worry that we are experiencing, please help us transform these into prayers so that they are received in the heart of God in a way that can help to heal and transform whatever circumstances are at play. Angels, help each one of us to breathe deeply and know that we are being taken good care of. Angels, help us to be instruments of peace and kindness in the world. And watch over us as we rest, that we each may receive healing in a way that is in alignment with our deepest and highest good. So, dear ones, just take a nice deep breath in and out, and the angels are bringing love to you now. They are filling the room you are in with a soft pink light, with love that has been calibrated just for you. The angels know that you feel deeply. You know, not everybody lives through their hearts, but many of us who are empaths do just that. We feel. Feeling is our primary language. And so if you are someone who feels deeply, the angels are bringing healing to your heart chakra. And just breathe and receive the love. You know, one of the things that is so precious about the divine love is we are designed to receive it. You know, some of us have sometimes challenges in receiving earthly love, but divine love, it is like sunlight. We know how to blossom open when it is present. So take another deep breath in and out, and thank you for caring so deeply about the well-being of others. You truly carry the world in your heart, and when you do, it allows you to emanate more love into this world. Never apologize for your sensitivity. It is one of your gifts because it allows you to participate in this world in a way that is deeply meaningful. But for now, the angels seek to soothe your heart, to bring in the bright light of God's love, or source love, however you think of it, to help wash you clean so that you can go into a cycle of sleep feeling held and loved in the best way possible. And allow this light to pour over you, helping to relax your body as you snuggle on in and get cozy. The angels are smoothing your energy field, helping to clear anything that isn't yours, especially any old energies you no longer need to carry. Take a nice deep breath in and out, and just relax into this loving presence. And just breathe with me. I am feeling such a deep wave of serenity coming through. And it doesn't mean you need to feel serene, but these energies often come through as attunements. So, when I say I feel a deep wave of serenity coming through, I feel the angels bringing an attunement of divine serenity to you. So just imagine or visualize what it might feel like to have divine serenity brought to you as an elixir of healing right now, to help calm your nervous system and the thoughts in your mind, and the way stress might be present in your body or mind or emotional heart. And allow divine serenity to fill you now as an elixir of light, to help balance your energy field. And just breathe and receive. And they're especially showing me the energy of divine serenity going down your neck and down your back to the small of your back to your solar plexus, helping to loosen any stuck energy or tension that you're holding in your back. So just allow your back to relax a bit as the channels of light open up. And just drop your shoulders because the light is now working on your shoulders. Good. Oh, you're doing so much better than you know. And while you sleep, the angels are going to stay with you, and they will help to balance your energy field so that while you rest, you really get to replenish. And the hope is that you'll wake up in the morning feeling even more of yourself, brighter and more centered and more aware of your gifts and your authentic presence in this world. So you go ahead and drift off. And I'm going to be with you for a while now. I'm going to read to you, and the angels will keep you wrapped in love. So tonight I'm guided to read to you something that is easy and light. And so I'll tell you what I have been craving as I go to sleep. I have, if it's possible and if I have permission to enjoy my own podcast, because I do listen to it sometimes, I'm really enjoying the episodes about Marshall Fields and Company. And if you haven't heard them yet, it's okay. A little bit of background is Marshall Fields was a very high-end department store in the Chicago area, and it was known for its exemplary service and display windows, and everything about it was exceptional, and it was certainly a part of my childhood. And the chapter that I'm going to share with you tonight, it's from a book about Marshall Fields published in 1922. So if you think about 1922, what the world was like then. So back then, a lot of advertising was artists rendering. So seeing photographs, or even forget about color photographs, right, and catalogs, that wasn't really available. And people, unless they were very wealthy and could travel to Paris or London for clothes, you would shop locally. And Marshall Fields was one of the stores that really set the tone for the display of merchandise. I remember as a child going down to State Street in Chicago and seeing the Christmas windows at Marshall Fields, and Carson Perry Scott and Lord and Taylor was a huge deal. We would get all bundled up. It was always really cold. And we would get bundled up, and we would walk along the perimeter of the store, and Marshall Fields took up a full city block, a square block. And you'd walk around, and the windows would tell a story. And every year they outdid themselves. And it was a huge part of my childhood. And if you never had the opportunity to go see window displays as an art form, you might remember the scene that opens the movie A Christmas Story, where Ralphie and his family are looking at the Christmas displays. So the chapter I'm going to read to you is a little bit about how the art form of displaying merchandise came into play at Marshall Fields and Company. So you cozy on in, and I'm going to lull you to sleep with the story of Marshall Fields and their displays. In the Marshall Field and Company retail store, there are in all 65 display windows. Enormous as this figure is, the Marshall Field and Company windows and the firm's display methods generally have become renowned throughout the world, not because of their quantity, but because of their character and quality. As far back as 1895, the firm began to exhibit displays of merchandise that were then altogether unique, something entirely new to the merchandising world. And although since that time the Marshall Field and Company windows have had many imitators not only in this country but also in Europe, the field displays still stand far and away ahead of those of any other store. There were good window displays 26 years ago. That is, they were good from a certain standpoint. They attracted attention. But horseshoes or mill wheels made of handkerchiefs bore no relation to the purpose for which the goods were made, nor did such exhibits tend to create in the beholder a desire for a better or more attractive handkerchief. Similarly, the crowded windows of that day, although they might impress the spectator with some conception of the size of the stocks carried in the store, conveyed no idea of quality. Nor did exhibits of that character have any power in the direction of suggesting to the beholder new ways in which the merchandise might be employed. The purpose of the Marshall Field and Company method of display was to do just what the ordinary display window had failed to accomplish. In place of the mechanical showing of merchandise in a mechanical setting, the display and its surroundings were conceived from the standpoint of art, and also with due regard to a still more subtle consideration. This was that something of which we hear a great deal nowadays, and to which, for want of a better name, we usually refer to as psychology. In other words, instead of striving for a direct influence or effect, the field display man, an artist himself, worked on the principle which actuates all true artists. This principle or plan is to put into the picture a something which the beholder sees not with the eye of the body, but with the eye of the mind. Expressing it in another way, the Marshall Field and Company windows make people who see them think. These beholders are scarcely conscious of the mental process, but it is there. It goes on perhaps in spite of the beholder's preoccupation with some other subject. But in the back of the mind, the woman, we will suppose it is a woman, though it may be equally true of one of the menfolk, is thinking. I just have to stop. They could never write that sentence today. They are thinking, there is an idea that I could have worked out in my home, or that dress is just the right combination of materials and colors. I see now how I ought to have mine made if I am to get the proper effect. But the field display man wanted to go further than this. He desired also to express the quality of the merchandise carried in the store. As he explained it in talking over the matter with the editor of the Dry Goods Economist some time ago, one must have a due sense of proportion and values. If you have a $150,000 dining room, you must have a chef or caterer capable of serving a meal in consonance with the surroundings. In this establishment in which millions are invested, anything we do must be proportionate with the establishment itself. With this in mind, right from the inauguration of the new method, wonderful settings for the displays were conceived and produced. Skilled artists, painters, and sculptors were called in from time to time. They were directed, moreover, by the display manager who, through his constant study of the subject, had learned exactly what style of architecture or furniture was appropriate for the exploiting of dresses or costumes whose creators had gone to this, that, or the other source for their inspiration. If the dress showed the influence of the Louis XIV styles, then the setting was correctly along the lines of that period. Or if what are known as empire fashions were in favor and were displayed, then the background The hangings and the furniture and all other accessories recalled the splendid simplicity of the ancient classic Greece and Rome, from which the dress and costume designers of the First Empire period in France went for their models. In the preparation of these settings no expense was spared, yet in them was displayed perhaps but a single garment, with a few accessories that might appropriately be worn. As the years have gone by, the care given to the devising and the installation of displays has been augmented, and the facilities for their production have been increased. Seldom or never is a setting the result of sudden inspiration. The actual result is preceded by a long period of thoughtful preparation. Where period designs are to be employed, a careful study of the architecture, decoration, and dress of that period is undertaken. After the atmosphere of the period has been fully absorbed, it is reproduced not in the form of slavish copying or even of imitation, but in new and original designs which, while reflecting the influence of the past, blend naturally and gracefully with the modern attire or home decoration or whatever may be in those forms, and this forms the practical feature of the display. The personnel of the display department embraces a large force, not only of window trimmers in the stricter sense of the word, but also of sculptors, painters, carpenters, and so forth. 20 display men are constantly employed in dressing windows. There is an average force in addition of 10 painters, 3 casters producing plaster statues and other decorations, and 5 carpenters. This force requires a large space in which to work, and height as well as longitudinal space is accepted as essential for the development of the backgrounds. In some instances, the backgrounds are fully 18 feet high. During a recent visit of the Dry Goods Economist's editor, an artist was at work on a background 15 feet square, a landscape with branching trees against the sky and blossoms on the boughs. Near at hand stood the sketch on a small scale by which the painter was guided. This was but one example of the minute care with which the decorative designs are conceived and worked out. It is one man's job to assemble and put away the figures in wax or composition after they have been used. Others take care of the wax heads and hands to keep them constantly in the best possible conditions. There is also a workroom in which women are employed when necessary in sewing or embroidering materials to be used in display settings. Each window is regarded as a room or a small stage, and that room or stage is decorated and furnished in strict accord and harmony with the merchandise which is to be displayed therein. We noted a model of the State and Washington Street's corner window, which forms the setting for Marshall Field and Company's most remarkable displays, and nearby were models of other windows. Everything is worked out beforehand in these model windows, and drawings are made to scale, so that when the time comes for installation, each part and accessory fits accurately into its proper place. The spacious room in which these model windows are kept is an artist's studio in every sense of the word, and in it one finds many examples of the wonderful work in carving, casting, sculpture, and painting carried on in the department. Frequently the cost of the backgrounds and accessories runs into several thousands of dollars. In one instance, forms for the display of gowns were modeled by a sculptor, not singly, but with the entire group of figures in mind. The poses were not only natural, but each figure had its due relationship to the others. There was a total absence of stiffness. There were none of those bizarre poses or attitudes which are but too common in the display windows of stores where the importance of details is unrecognized. In fact, the field windows are really works of art in many instances, and any art lover will stand long before them and drink in their attractiveness and charm, just as he or she would linger in front of an exquisite painting or sculpture figure treasured in some art museum. This in part tells the story of the new display method which has come to be known the world over as the Marshall Field and Company type of window. Not by any means the least remarkable part of the story, however, is the fact that the artist display man who originated the style was discovered 26 years ago by one of Marshall Field and Company's road salesmen. The man, who is still at the head of the display department of the retail store, was at that time employed in a small store in a little town in Iowa, where he was doing all kinds of work in addition to window dressing. His work having brought to the attention of Mr. Shedd, the young man entered the Marshall Field and Company organization, and ever since that time the field displays, while adhering to the type they have made famous, have continued to grow in beauty, in uniqueness, and in character. For the young man of 26 years ago, as above stated, still designs and directs them, and like all the successful men in the field organization, he has kept up to date, ever striving for the new, the better, and the best. Thus it is too that wherever one goes in America and Europe, one hears of Marshall Fields and Company windows. Constantly one hears also the name of the firm applied to displays of a certain type. The displays in question perhaps do not approximate in any degree the field creations, either in the character of merchandise or of the setting. Every dry goods man knows, however, what is meant by the term a Marshall Field window, and it is probable that as long as there are display windows in dry goods stores, Marshall Field and Company style of setting and arrangement will be followed, and men will describe that type of window by the name of the great Chicago firm. Retail merchants everywhere will be interested in learning that Marshall Field and Company do not link up their windows with their advertising, as is done by many stores. When a special sale is held, for example, it is customary with many retailers to make a most extensive showing of the kind of merchandise that is being offered at unusually attractive prices. If it is silks, a whole battery of windows show that kind of fabric. That is not the Marshall Field and Company way. Their policy, as we have already endeavored to make clear, is to use the windows for displaying the newest and the finest of wares and creations, and to maintain among the public the conviction that Fields stands first, last, and all the time for quality. Quality because of honest and care in construction, because of accurate interpretation of the fashion trend, or due to whatever other factor it may be that makes the merchandise fit in every way for the purpose for which it is to be purchased and consumed. Another method that is well worth noting is this, that windows are not used indiscriminately for this. The windows of State Street front, together with those in the Randolph Street and Washington Street fronts of the State Street building, all the way from Washington to Randolph, are employed only for the displaying of women's, misses', and children's apparel and accessories, such as millinery, neckwear, dainty handbags, and so forth. The Randolph Street front of the Wabash Avenue building and the Wabash Avenue front of that building are invariably the location for window displays of home decorations and house furnishings. and the Washington Street front of the Wabash Avenue building is the window space for jewelry, leather goods, stationery, combs, and similar lines. During the World War, the patriotism and the desire to help in every way possible, which actuated the entire dry goods trade of this country, were made magnificent in window displays urging citizens to save food, to contribute liberally to the Red Cross, the YMCA, and other organizations, to purchase Liberty bonds, and to cooperate with the government in every possible way. Marshall Field and Company, as was to be expected, active in this work, and because of their extraordinary facilities for designing original, striking, and impressive displays and carrying these out in the most effective manner, their wartime windows attracted attention not only in Chicago, but also in nearby cities and towns to which words of these exhibits was carried by thousands of people who had visited the store and been deeply impressed, both by the displays themselves and the messages thus conveyed. These displays represented in the broad sense the application of that public spirit by which the firm is actuated, and which, as a subsequent chapter will show, has been clearly exemplified throughout many years in all the channels through which its dealings with the public are carried on. Next, I'm going to read to you from another chapter that talks about how they took care of their employees back then. And I read part of this chapter in an earlier episode, but it's so interesting. I'm going to read some more to you from it. Another factor that is proving helpful is the sponsor system. Marshall Field and Company were among the first to adopt this method, the primary purpose of which is to get new employees to feel at home in their department and aid them in acquiring a knowledge of their duties. This tends to lessen the help turnover. The new employee sees from the start that the store management takes an interest in her and that the house desires to help her to progress. From the sponsor, the novice derives an instruction in the details of her work. She learns of the location of elevators, stairways, etc., and acquires other information that enables her to answer intelligently questions put to her by the customers. The sponsors assist the section managers in checking up on all their people in the reports of errors on sales checks. They work closely with the Educational Bureau in the effort to reduce the number of these errors. Being constantly in touch with the people in the section, sponsors are often the means of keeping up the standard of service, dress, etc., as set forth in the employee manual. Through the sponsors, over 400 people, many of whom had been in the store for some time, volunteered to join classes in English. They were organized and carried on from 8:45 to 9:30 in the morning, chiefly for the purpose of correcting errors of speech and enlarging the vocabulary. In selecting employees who are to act as sponsors, attention is given to such qualifications as friendliness, cheerfulness, maturity, good judgment, strong personality, plenty of tact, ability to avoid friction, dependability, loyalty to the house, and ability to impart knowledge. To these is added a thorough grounding in the system and policy of the house. The aim is to have a sponsor in every section of the store, with additional sponsors in some sections during the busier months of November and December. The sponsor system at Fields has been developed in a thorough manner and has brought excellent results. The Educational Bureau also has under its charge the facilities for the comfort and welfare of the employees. Among these is what is known as the music room. This is an extremely cheerful and comfortable gathering place. This music room is used as a restroom, as well as for practice meetings of the Choral Society, composed of members of the Marshall Field and Company organization. At various times, meetings are also held and lectures and entertainments of various kinds are given there. As many as 75 such gatherings have been held in the music room outside of business hours during the year, and every day the working week not less than 500 girls and women avail themselves of the opportunity to spend some time there in rest or recreation. The Educational Bureau supervises the loaning of over 500 warm black sweaters to girls and women whose work necessitates their standing near doors or other cold, drafty places in the winter season. A room registry is maintained whereby the employees may find comfortable, reliable lodgings. These, as well as the vacation resorts recommended by the Educational Bureau, are first carefully investigated. There is also a reading room for men. This is provided not only with newspapers and magazines, but also with writing materials and with chess and checkerboards. Very often, outside of the store hours, many of the girl and women employees are brought together by clubs which are not actually a part of the store's activities, but which they are encouraged to join and support. Usually, there are two outstanding organizations of this variety, the YWCA and the College Girls Club. The College Girls Club is composed of young women members of the field organization who have attended college and who enjoy getting together on a common level and talking over their problems both as field store employees and as college women. In short, there are abundant evidences of the thought prevailing among the heads of the Marshall Field and Company organization that its employees shall be just like one big family. Another important feature of the 12th floor is the great, big, airy restaurant for employees, which has an unbroken view of Lake Michigan. The greater part of this restaurant is run on the cafeteria plan. A smaller section is for the use of those employees who prefer to bring their lunch with them. In this smaller section, however, means are provided for the supplementing of the food brought from home with tea, coffee, and other drinks, and with ice cream or some other form of dessert. The main part of the restaurant, conducted on the cafeteria plan, has a capacity of 6,000. This means, for example, that there are 6,000 aluminum trays provided, besides plates, dishes, glasses, cups and saucers, knives and forks, and various other utensils. For transferring the soiled dishes, etc., to the dishwashing machine, an endless belt is provided, and the rest of the equipment is on a similarly up-to-date time-saving plan. All the cooking is accomplished by means of electrical ranges, and the silver is polished after each use by means of a buffing machine. Everything about this cafeteria or restaurant is spotless, and the food, though served at the cost of purchase, preparation, and serving, is of the highest character. After food for the body comes food for the mind. This need is admirably supplied in the field store by an extensive library. It contains nearly 4,000 books of its own, including many valuable and up-to-date works of reference. There are also, on deposit in this branch of the Marshall Field and Company personnel activities, some 2,800 volumes from the Chicago Public Library. In addition, the Field Library has the use of books from the Public Library's circulating department. There is also a branch of this field library in the firm's wholesale building. The average monthly circulation of the field library is between 6,000 and 8,000 volumes. Both for use in the library and for circulation, there is provided an extensive selection of magazines and business papers. Many copies of each issue of the Dry Goods Economist thus pass into reading and circulation, and during its editor's visit to the library, he was informed The Economist is read and reread until it is almost worn out. The librarians publish lists of books on special subjects and give careful attention to research questions, which are presented by section managers or other employees. The library is open from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and is a center of rest and enjoyment for all employees. The retail store organization of Marshall Field and Company numbers during the greater part of the year just about 10,000. During the busier periods, such as the pre-Christmas weeks, the number is increased by 50%. Naturally, amid such a great number of people, there is at all times a certain percentage who are in need of medical advice. Reference has already been made to the store's medical bureau, its origin many years ago, and its work in connection with the new employees. Now, there must be said something as to what is done right along the year round for employees who are ailing or meet with an accident. The medical bureau is fully equipped to handle simple cases, to give first aid, and to furnish advice through a thorough examination of the patient. Wisely, as a little consideration will show, the medical bureau does not give treatment except to the degree above indicated. It does take care, however, that the employee who is sick shall so be directed as to obtain medical treatment from a properly qualified practitioner, a specialist it may be, in certain cases. 3 doctors compose the medical staff, and at all hours throughout the working day, one of them is in attendance. As the physician-in-chief explained it, this plan has the advantage of permitting each of the doctors to practice at a hospital or elsewhere, and thus keep in touch with all the newest developments in the treatment of the disease. The personnel of the medical bureau also includes 6 trained nurses, a clerk to take care of the records of cases, and a stenographer. This extensive staff is made necessary by the fact that a visit is paid by a nurse to each employee who goes home on sick leave and is absent more than a day or so. This feature of the Bureau's work is known as social service and is under the direction of still another member of the Medical Bureau's personnel who is not included in the foregoing enumeration. Among other things, the call brings out information as to whether the patient is under the care of the right kind of physician. This is a matter which obviously has no small bearing on the speed of recovery. In some instances, the employee who needs special treatment or an operation, it may be, is sent either to St. Luke's Hospital or to the Presbyterian Hospital. And I hope you are enjoying this glimpse of what life was like at Marshall Field back in the day. It brings back a lot of memories for me. When I had my internship there, I ate in the cafeteria. Maybe it was on the 12th floor, I don't remember that, but I ate in the employee cafeteria back in the day. I don't have any really great stories to tell you about it, but just reading about it made me think how cool that was. And they had nowhere near that kind of workforce when I worked there. But I have one other really funny story to share with you about my internship at Marshall Fields. So I was working in the corporate video department, and I was brand new. And the engineer there, I'll just say I did not find him easy to work with. He was probably a lovely man, but I didn't quite vibe with him. And so I had the assignment. He told me to mop the studio floor. So I was going to college, and I would think I was relatively intelligent, but I didn't know much about mopping studio floors, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but I figured, well, you fill a bucket with some kind of solution and you mop it, right? How hard could that be? Not diminishing people who clean for a living. I just mean, I guess, okay, I guess it's going to be easy. And I went into the maintenance closet, and on the shelf was a bottle of some sort of cleansing agent, and it was called mannequin cleaner. And I thought, oh, okay, well, this must be the cleaner they use, thinking that mannequin cleaner was the name of the brand, right? Like Mr. Clean or something. So I poured the mannequin cleaner in the bucket and filled it with water and got out the mop and then proceeded to mop the entire studio floor. But I'm noticing the floor isn't looking shiny, it's looking dull. And I got kind of worried, like, he had told me that they had just resealed the floor and it was nice and shiny. And so I went to him and I said, I'm washing the floor and it's looking dull. What am I supposed to use to clean the floor? He said, well, what are you using? I said, the mannequin cleaner. And he looked at me like I was the dumbest person in the world. And he said, that's for mannequins. Like, of course it is, but like, why would I think there was a special kind of solvent to clean mannequins, right? I had spent no time in in the dry goods world, and I thought it was the brand. Ay, ay, ay. So, yeah, they were not happy with me. I don't remember how the floor got fixed, but they didn't ask me to mop it again. That was sort of off my list of things that I had to do. So I just thought that was funny. It's for mannequins. So just in case you were ever wondering, there's actually, at least there was back in 1982, a specific solvent cleaner for mannequins, which you do not use on a floor. Just in case you are ever put in that life situation, you have now learned a valuable life lesson from me as you drift off to sleep. So, my beautiful friends, I am sending you love, so much love from my heart to yours. And I wish you sweet dreams and a good night's rest. And remember, the angels will be staying with you. So I love you, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.